No one stopped when they passed the pillar. That was the part that stayed with him forever. The alien girl was chained in the open, under broken lights, her arms stretched above her head, metal cuffs biting into blue skin already bruised and torn. A thin sign hung from her neck, written in sharp alien symbols, then crudely translated beneath in trade language. "Take as you please." Rivenholt slowed his steps without meaning to. His heart hammered hard enough to hurt. Nexus Lowsprawl was not a place where mercy survived. Everyone here had learned to look away. Humans especially. Weak. Few. Disposable. If you stared too long, you didn't live long. Riven told himself to keep walking. He didn't. 3 years earlier, he had arrived on this planet with a military discharge chip and a spine full of scars. Humanity had lost the border war. The galaxy had moved on. Riven had ended up here, running scrap routes, illegal courier jobs, anything that paid enough to keep a roof over his head. Tonight was no different. A data core sat hidden inside his coat. High risk. High pay. His last chance before eviction. But the girl lifted her head. Her eyes met his. They were not begging. They were terrified, and furious. That was what broke him. Riven glanced around the empty square. No guards. No witnesses. Just flickering neon and distant engines humming like predators in the dark. The alien girl's breathing was shallow. Blood streaked her arms where restraints had cut too deep. Strange glowing patterns pulsed weakly across her skin, dim and uneven, like a dying signal. He swore under his breath. "This is insane," he muttered, already stepping closer. The cuffs were simple. Punishment restraints. Meant to humiliate, not secure. Whoever chained her here wanted her seen, not saved. Riven snapped the first lock. Then the second. The girl collapsed forward, knees buckling. He caught her instinctively, shocked by how light she felt. Her body trembled violently, whether from pain or fear, he couldn't tell. "It's done," he said softly, even though he didn't know if she understood. "You're not staying here." Her fingers clenched into his jacket like it was the only solid thing left in the universe. Riven moved fast. He wrapped his coat around her shoulders and lifted her fully off the ground. The sign clattered to the pavement. He kicked it aside without looking at it again. He didn't notice the security drone until it was already watching. A red light blinked once, then vanished into the shadows. Riven felt it in his bones. Someone had seen. By the time he reached his apartment block, the girl had gone limp in his arms. Panic clawed at his chest. He forced the door open, sealed it behind him, and laid her gently on the narrow bed that barely fit one person. She stirred faintly. Her skin was burning hot. "Hey," Riven said, crouching beside her. "Stay with me." Her eyes opened just enough to focus on his face. She whispered something in a broken, unfamiliar accent. "Why, human?" He swallowed. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe I'm tired of pretending I don't see things." Her lips trembled. Then darkness took her. Riven worked through the night. He cleaned her wounds with recycled water, cursing every time she flinched even while unconscious. Some cuts weren't cuts at all, ritual markings. Symbols burned into flesh. Punishment symbols. Exile marks. When she finally woke again, the fear returned instantly. She pushed herself back, pressing against the wall, eyes wide. "Easy," Riven said, stepping back, hands raised. "You're safe. No one's touching you." She studied him like a cornered animal. Slowly, her breathing steadied. "You broke law," she said carefully. "Yeah," he replied. "That's not new for me." She hesitated. "They will hunt you." Riven leaned against the table, exhausted. They already were. Silence stretched between them. "My name is Riven," he said at last. "What's yours?" The glow on her skin pulsed faintly. "Iria," she whispered. "Of the Kale." He had heard the name before. Powerful alien lineage. Untouchable. "What did they punish you for?" he asked. Her jaw tightened. "Choosing." That single word carried more weight than any explanation. Riven's communicator suddenly vibrated. One message. Then another. Unknown source. Return what you stole. Or lose everything. Riven looked from the device to the fragile alien woman sitting on his bed. For the first time in years, the future felt sharp and terrifying. And he realized something else too. By saving Iria, he hadn't just broken a law. He had stepped into a war humans were never meant to survive. Riven didn't sleep. He sat on the floor with his back against the door, blaster in his lap, eyes fixed on the narrow bed where Iria lay. Her breathing was steadier now, but the glow beneath her skin still flickered like a weak signal fighting static. Outside, Nexus low sprawl never truly went quiet. Pipes hissed. Distant vehicles screamed through air lanes. Somewhere nearby, something metal crashed hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling. The whole district felt like a hungry beast that never stopped chewing. Riven checked his communicator again. Unknown source. Return what you stole. Or lose everything. He hadn't stolen anything. He was a courier. A nobody. But somebody out there believed he had taken something valuable. Or they were talking about Iria. His jaw tightened. He looked at the data core hidden in the lining of his coat, then back at the alien girl. Both had entered his life on the same night. Both carried danger like gravity. Iria's eyes opened without warning. Not slow. Not groggy. Instantly alert. She sat up, wincing as pain shot through her arms. The coat he'd wrapped around her slipped a little, revealing the ritual marks, dark symbols etched into her skin, surrounded by faint purple bruising. Riven moved carefully, keeping his voice low. How are you feeling? Iria's gaze moved across the room like she was mapping escape routes. Then it landed on him. Alive, she said. That is, unexpected. He tried to smile, but it came out bitter. Welcome to my life. Iria's eyes narrowed slightly. You could have left me. Yeah. Why didn't you? Riven hesitated. He could have given the usual lie. He could have said he was just being decent. But she didn't look like someone who respected pretty words. So he told the truth. Because I know what it's like to be labeled worthless, he said. And I'm tired of watching the galaxy prove it. For a moment, Iria didn't speak. The glow on her skin pulsed once, stronger. Like her body reacted to something deeper than language. Then she whispered, humans are strange. Riven gave a small shrug. I've heard that before. She lifted her hands, staring at her wrists where the metal cuffs had bitten deep. They marked me, she said quietly. They wanted others to. She stopped, swallowing hard. Riven felt his stomach twist. Take you, he finished, voice rough. Iria's eyes flashed with something sharp. Use me. Claim me. Punish me further. It is tradition. Riven stood up so fast the chair scraped. That's not tradition. That's sick. Her gaze hardened. The Kale are not your species. Our honor is built on rules older than your planet's oceans. Then your honor is rotten. Silence hit like a slap. Iria stared at him, stunned, like she wasn't used to being spoken to that way. Especially by a human. Then her voice became quieter. I broke their purity law. What does that mean? I touched someone I was not allowed to touch. Riven blinked. That's it. Iria's jaw tightened. Among the Kale, touch is not casual. Our biology binds memory to contact. A single handhold can create a life bond. Riven's throat went dry. So they punished you for bonding. Yes, she said. They removed my right to belong. Riven looked at the ritual marks again. They weren't random. They were a message. This one is nothing. This one can be taken. He turned away before she could see the anger in his eyes. His communicator buzzed again. This time, it wasn't text. It was a ping from an old frequency he hadn't heard in years. Human military emergency band. Riven froze. He tapped it. A distorted voice crackled through, barely audible. Any human who hears this, avoid the Kale enforcement. Repeat, avoid. Then the signal cut. Riven stood still, pulse pounding. Human military bands didn't just activate by accident. Someone had routed a warning through a dead network. Someone human. Iria's head tilted slightly, listening to the last fading static. That transmission, it carries fear. Riven exhaled slowly. Yeah. He didn't like this. Not at all. His eyes slid toward the window. A faint red light hovered outside, barely visible through grime and rain stains. At first glance, it looked like a reflection. But it moved with purpose. A drone. Watching. Riven's grip tightened on the blaster. Don't move, he murmured. Iria followed his gaze. Her glow dimmed. They found us. Riven moved fast. He killed the room lights and pulled Iria down behind the bed. The drone outside shifted slightly, its lens angling toward the glass. Then a sharp electronic chirp sounded. A scan. Riven whispered, if it tags us, we're done. Iria's breathing quickened. They will drag me back. Not happening. The drone's light brightened. Riven made a decision in a heartbeat. He grabbed a dented metal tray, yanked it from the table, and flung it straight into the window. Glass exploded outward. The drone jerked, startled. Riven fired once. The shot wasn't clean, but it hit the drone stabilizer. Sparks burst. The machine spun wildly and slammed into the building's exterior, falling into the alley below with a crunch. Silence. Then, far away, a siren began to wail. Riven cursed. They're coming, he said. Iria stared at him, stunned. You attacked Kale property. Yeah, he said, already moving. And now we're leaving. He rushed to the closet and threw clothes onto the bed, old human gear, worn but functional. He turned his back to give her privacy. Put that on. Now. Iria's hands shook as she pulled on a rough shirt and pants. They didn't fit perfectly, but they covered her skin and hid the ritual marks. Riven grabbed his coat with the hidden data core. Then the building shook. A heavy impact hit the front entrance downstairs. Another. Someone was breaking in. Riven's blaster was illegal. His rent was unpaid. His papers were expired. If security caught him, he was finished even without Iria. He looked at the one place he'd sworn he'd never go. The hidden panel under the floorboard. He knelt, popped it open, and pulled out a thin case wrapped in oilcloth. Inside was an old human combat visor, scratched, patched, outdated, and a small metal emblem. A human unit badge. Iria watched him, eyes widening. You are not just a courier, she said slowly. Riven didn't answer. He slid the visor on and powered it up. A faded interface blinked to life. Then something happened that made his blood run cold. The visor detected Iria, and immediately displayed a warning in bold red. Kale BO signature, Royal Class. Status, exiled. Reward authorization, maximum. Riven turned to her, voice sharp. What do you mean Royal Class? Iria's eyes flickered away. I was close to the High Line. Close how? She swallowed. My blood can activate the Kale Gate. Riven felt the room tilt. The Kale Gate was a myth whispered across smuggler routes, an ancient alien network that could fold space instantly. Whoever controlled it controlled trade, war, and entire civilizations. Riven's mind raced. That's why they chained her. That's why they labeled her. That's why a maximum reward existed. They weren't punishing her for touch. They were removing her protection so anyone could capture her without starting a civil war. And now, she was here. With him. Downstairs, the door finally broke. Boots thundered up the stairwell. Riven grabbed Iria's wrist. Listen to me, he said low and urgent. If they take you, you don't come back from that. Do you understand? Iria's eyes shone with fear. Yes. Riven nodded toward the back wall. There's an old service hatch behind the sink. It leads into the maintenance tunnels. We take that, we disappear. He pushed her toward the bathroom. The first shot hit his door. Wood splintered. A harsh alien voice barked from outside. Open. By order of Kale Enforcement. Riven didn't hesitate. He kicked the bathroom panel loose, shoved Iria into the darkness beyond, then followed with blaster raised. As the hatch sealed behind them, the apartment door exploded inward. And the hunt began. Deep in the maintenance tunnel, Iria stumbled, breathing hard. The glow under her skin pulsed faster. Riven watched it, uneasy. What's happening? Iria's voice shook. My body remembers your touch. Riven froze. What? Iria's eyes met his. When you carried me, when you saved me, it started something. The tunnel felt suddenly too small. Like a bond. Iria nodded, terrified. Yes. Behind them, metal screeched. They were cutting into the hatch. Riven took a slow breath, forcing his fear into focus. Then hold on, he said. Because if the galaxy wants us dead for that, we'll prove them wrong. He grabbed her hand, and her skin lit up like a living constellation. For a second, the entire tunnel glowed bright blue. And somewhere far above, alarms changed tone. Because the Kale Gate, wherever it was, had just awakened. The tunnel trembled. Dust rained down from the ceiling as distant machinery roared to life, old systems awakening after centuries of silence. The blue light fading from Iria's skin left behind a deep, humming vibration that Riven felt in his bones. He released her hand slowly. What did you just do? He asked. Iria leaned against the tunnel wall, breathing hard. The glow beneath her skin dimmed, but it didn't disappear this time. It stabilized, stronger, controlled. I didn't choose to, she said. The gate felt you. Riven frowned. Felt me how? Like a question, she whispered. And like an answer. That didn't help. Behind them, the sound of cutting metal grew louder. The Kale enforcers were forcing their way through the hatch. Riven glanced down the tunnel. It stretched into darkness, narrow and uneven, barely maintained. He tightened his grip on the blaster. We don't stop, he said. Move. They ran. The tunnel forked repeatedly, old service paths branching in chaotic directions. Riven followed instinct more than logic, guided by half-remembered maps and the visor's flickering scan. Several paths had collapsed completely. Others led toward faint air currents, signs of exits. Suddenly, Iria grabbed his arm. Wait. Riven spun. We don't have time. They are not alone, she said urgently. His visor flickered again. Multiple life signs. Not Kale. Human. Riven's heart skipped. He cut the visor feed and listened. Boots. Soft. Controlled. Moving with purpose. A voice echoed down the tunnel, low and steady. Easy there. If you're human, don't shoot. Riven raised his blaster anyway. A tall figure stepped into the dim light, helmet off, face scarred and unmistakably human. Behind him came three others, armed, disciplined, alert. Humans. You picked a hell of a night to wake up the galaxy, the man said, eyes flicking to Iria and widening just slightly. Name's Calder. Riven didn't lower his weapon. You military. Calder snorted. What's left of it? Behind them, the cutting noise grew closer. Calder's expression hardened. We don't have much time. Kale trackers are flooding the district. You two are the reason. Riven glanced at Iria. They know about the gate. Calder's jaw tightened. Yeah. And now so do we. One of Calder's team checked a wrist device. Signal confirmed. Ancient tech signature. Same pattern we lost at EOS station. Riven's pulse spiked. Lost. Calder met his eyes. Destroyed. Along with everyone on it. Iria's breath caught. They used human lives to test the gate, she whispered. That is forbidden. Calder laughed without humor. They didn't care. The tunnel shook again. This time closer. Calder gestured sharply. Decision time. You come with us, or you get captured in about 60 seconds. Riven looked at Iria. What happens if we go with you? Calder answered instead. We run. We hide. And if we're lucky, we hit back. Riven nodded once. Lead. They moved fast, slipping through a narrow access shaft that opened into an abandoned transit hub buried beneath the city. Rusted rails. Broken platforms. Old human graffiti scratched into alien stone. Iria stared at it all. This place remembers you, she said softly. Calder raised an eyebrow. She always talk like that. Only when reality gets weird, Riven replied. They boarded an old cargo tram hidden beneath tarps and scrap. Calder powered it up manually. The engine whined, then roared to life. As the tram accelerated into darkness, Riven finally let himself breathe. Why help us? He asked. Calder leaned back, eyes hard. Because humans have been hunted quietly for years. Disappeared. Experimented on. We've been gathering proof. And the gate? Riven pressed. Calder looked at Iria. That's leverage. Or a weapon. Iria straightened. It is neither. The gate responds to intent. To unity. It was never meant to be owned. Calder studied her carefully. Then the galaxy's about to have a bad time. Because ownership is all anyone understands. The tram burst into open-air miles outside the city, racing toward a dead mining zone abandoned decades ago. Massive stone pylons rose from the ground like broken teeth. Iria gasped. This is it, she said. A gate anchor. Calder swore softly. So the myths were real. The tram slowed near a massive stone ring half buried in the ground. Ancient symbols pulsed faintly as Iria stepped closer. The air vibrated again, stronger this time. Riven felt it too. Not power. Potential. What happens if the Kale reach this? Riven asked. Iria turned to him. They rewrite the balance of the galaxy. And if humans do? She hesitated. Then everything changes. Sirens wailed in the distance. Calder's team formed a perimeter. Riven stepped beside Iria. They underestimated us, he said. Iria's glow brightened, not fearfully this time, but steadily. Yes, she replied. They always do. The ancient ring began to rise from the ground. And for the first time in centuries, the gate prepared to choose. The ground shook as the ancient ring rose higher, stone grinding against stone like something waking from a very long sleep. Riven felt it in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. The gate wasn't just activating. It was listening. Across the open mining basin, Calder's team spread out, weapons trained on the horizon. Dust clouds bloomed as distant engines roared closer. Kale enforcement craft, sleek, angular, predatory, cut through the sky in perfect formation. They're not hesitating, one of the humans muttered. They want this sealed fast. Calder clenched his jaw. Or controlled. Iria stood at the center of the stone ring, her skin now glowing with steady, radiant light. The symbols carved into the gate pulsed in response, ancient patterns rearranging themselves like a living language. They are afraid, she said calmly. They know the gate will not obey them. Riven stepped closer. Then who does it obey? Iria turned to him. Those who choose to stand together. The first Kale dropship slammed into the ground at the basin's edge. Armored figures poured out, weapons already raised. Their commander's voice echoed through amplified speakers. IRA of the Kale. You are ordered to submit. Iria didn't move. You are Kyrith, the voice continued. Without status. Without protection. Riven felt something snap inside him. He stepped forward, placing himself between Iria and the advancing line. She's not alone, he said loudly. The Kale commander tilted its narrow head, eyes cold and calculating. You are human. You are irrelevant. Calder laughed, sharp and humorless. Funny. That's what everyone says right before we ruin their plans. The first shot rang out. Everything exploded into motion. Human weapons barked, crude but effective. Kale energy bolts screamed through the air, slicing stone and flesh alike. Riven fired with controlled bursts, his old training snapping back into place like muscle memory never forgotten. Humans didn't fight with elegance. They fought with adaptation. When one weapon overheated, another picked it up. When cover failed, they moved. When someone fell, two others dragged them back. The Kale advanced in perfect formation. And started losing. They weren't prepared for chaos. Above it all, the gate brightened. Symbols flared gold, then white. Iria cried out, not in pain, but strain. The energy flowing through her wasn't meant for a single body. Riven reached her just as her knees buckled. I can't hold it alone, she gasped. Riven didn't think. He grabbed her hand. The moment their skin touched, the gate reacted violently. A shockwave blasted outward, throwing Kale soldiers off their feet. Calder hit the ground hard, staring in disbelief as the air itself seemed to bend around the ring. What the hell did you do? He shouted. Iria looked at Riven, eyes wide. You anchored me. Riven swallowed. Good or bad? She laughed breathlessly. Necessary. The gate projected a massive image into the sky, stars folding, systems aligning, pathways forming between distant points in space. Every major power in the galaxy saw it. A choice. A message. Calder slowly pushed himself up. We're broadcasting across half the known systems. Let them see, Riven said. Kale reinforcements arrived too late. The gate finished its alignment. Iria raised her free hand, voice carrying far beyond the basin. This technology was built to connect, she said. Not to dominate. You turned it into a leash. The Kale commander screamed orders, but their weapons failed. Energy drains. Dead systems. The gate rejected them. Riven felt the surge course through him, not power, but clarity. He understood now. The gate responded to intent. Control made it resist. Unity made it open. Calder stared at the sky, stunned. We could move fleets with this. End blockades. Break empires. Iria shook her head. Or we could change the rules. She looked at Riven. At the cost of everything. Riven met her gaze without hesitation. Humanity's paid that cost before. The gate flared one final time. Then it spoke, not in sound, but certainty. Access granted. Multi-species cooperation protocol. Across the battlefield, Kale systems shut down completely. Silence fell. The Kale commander dropped to one knee, not in surrender, but disbelief. This is impossible, it hissed. Riven stepped forward. No, he said. This is what you were afraid of. Humans didn't conquer the gate. They shared it. And that terrified the galaxy. The galaxy did not explode into chaos the way everyone expected. It froze. For the first time in recorded history, every major power stopped moving. Fleets held position. Trade lanes went silent. War councils paused mid-argument as one truth spread faster than any signal ever had. The gate had chosen. Not the Kale. Not an empire. Not a single species. It had opened itself only when humans stood beside an alien exile and refused to let her stand alone. Riven felt the shift before anyone said a word. The air around the gate settled, heavy but calm, like the moment after a storm breaks. Iria's glow softened, no longer straining, no longer fighting. She stood upright now, steady, her breathing even. The Kale soldiers were powerless. Their weapons were dead. Their armor dim. Their command network silent. Calder walked slowly toward the kneeling Kale commander, rifle lowered but ready. It's over, he said. You lost the moment you decided ownership mattered more than people. The commander's voice trembled with fury and something dangerously close to fear. Humans should not have access to this, it hissed. You are volatile. Emotional. You destroy yourselves. Riven stepped forward. Yeah, he said simply. And we still get back up. Across the basin, emergency signals lit the sky as neutral observers arrived. Envoys, traders, intelligence craft from dozens of species. None of them fired. None of them moved closer. They were watching. Judging. Iria turned slowly, her voice carrying with quiet authority. The Kale stripped me of protection so they could use me without consequence, she said. They turned tradition into cruelty. They believed fear would keep power stable. Her eyes lifted to the sky. They were wrong. The gate pulsed once more, projecting a network map visible to all, routes opening, closing, reshaping in response to something deeper than command codes. Choice. Calder exhaled sharply. It's responding to cooperation patterns. Species that share resources stabilize the routes. Those that exploit get locked out. Riven felt a strange laugh bubble up in his chest. They built a god-level machine and forgot to account for empathy. Iria looked at him. Humans did not forget. The Kale commander dropped its gaze. This wasn't defeat by force. This was rejection. Within hours, the consequences rippled outward. Kale trade collapsed as their fleets found themselves unable to access critical routes. Border systems revolted. Allied species withdrew treaties overnight. Centuries of dominance crumbled, not because humans attacked, but because the galaxy saw the truth. Power hoarded rots. Power shared evolves. Human settlements began receiving transmissions. Requests. Questions. Warnings. Some species wanted alliance. Others demanded control. A few threatened war. Calder gathered his people and the few surviving Kale into a temporary camp at the basin's edge. Fires burned. Wounded rested. And in the center of it all stood the gate, silent now, waiting. Riven sat on a piece of broken stone, staring at his hands. So what now? He asked. Iria joined him, sitting close but not touching. Now, she said, I am no longer Kyrith. What does that make you? She smiled faintly. A bridge. Calder approached, arms crossed. You two just changed galactic politics forever, he said. Humanity's not invisible anymore. Riven looked up. Is that a good thing? Calder's expression was serious. It's a dangerous thing. Which usually means it's necessary. Iria turned toward the gate, eyes thoughtful. The gate will not belong to humans, she said. But it will answer them. As long as they stand as they did today. Riven stood. Then we make sure we don't forget how we stood. News spread fast. Stories always do. They told it wrong at first. They said a human warrior seized alien technology. They said a rebel weaponized an ancient machine. They said humanity finally found a way to dominate. But the truth leaked out anyway. A struggling human found an alien girl chained and marked as nothing. He chose to see her. He chose to help her. And because of that choice, the galaxy changed direction. Humans didn't win by strength. They won by refusing to accept cruelty as normal. In the months that followed, new coalitions formed. Human envoys traveled routes once forbidden. Mixed crews crewed ships for the first time in history. The gate adjusted constantly, favoring cooperation, punishing exploitation without a single shot fired. The Kale were forced to face themselves. Some adapted. Others faded. As for Riven and Iria, they didn't seek power or titles. They stayed near the gate, guarding it not as rulers, but as witnesses. One night, standing beneath unfamiliar stars, Iria reached for Riven's hand. This time, there was no pain in her touch. No punishment. Only choice. My people believed bonds were chains, she said softly. You showed me they can be strength. Riven squeezed her hand. Humanity's not perfect, he said. But we're good at one thing. What is that? Surviving long enough to become better. Above them, the gate shimmered gently. Waiting. Because somewhere in the galaxy, another injustice was happening. And now, humanity would see it.